Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Janusz Mihalik, Ali Moreno and Stevie Nicol. Observant viewers will notice the absence of Craig Burley over recent weeks. He's on vacation at the moment, but fear not, we have an update from him a little later in the show. I promise you, this video is worth staying tuned for. But first, we welcome Gab Marcotti to the programme to discuss James Rodriguez moving to Bayern Munich. Gab, this seemed to happen rather quickly. Of course, now reunited with Carlo Ancelotti, who he played with while at Real Madrid.
It did, and in the past we've talked about where he could fit in, given his style of play, given he likes to play in the hole. Well, Bayern was one of the few top clubs that conceivably have that setup. They had a surplus of wingers. Obviously, he's worked with Ancelotti before, and I think from Bayern's perspective, what they like about this deal is that they're getting a guy who cost a ton of money for not that much. It's a 2-year loan deal. They're going to be paying, effectively leasing James Rodriguez for 5 million euros, round about nearly $6 million a year in each of those 2 seasons. At the end of that, there is an agreed upon price at which they can buy him outright. There's suggestions it's in the 35 million range. But in some ways, that price is frankly irrelevant, because at that stage, he's only going to have 1 year left on his contract. And if things work out in Bayern, they're pretty sure that they could get him at a discount, and Real Madrid would have very little leverage at that point.
On paper, Janusz, this seems to make sense financially. On the pitch, is it a good deal for you?
I think it could be. I don't know if he plays from the beginning. Not for me, really, because I think players like Ribéry on the left-hand side is going to get the benefit of the doubt. Robben, of course, as well. Of course, we also know that they're not often healthy and always available. So there's going to be plenty. I see Bayern playing like a 4-2-3-1. So obviously he can play anywhere in that 3. He could play behind Lewandowski as well. But again, Thiago gets the benefit of the doubt because he was arguably the best player other than Lewandowski for Bayern Munich last year.
You would say that. Stevie, what do you think?
Yeah, listen, the guy's a great player. He's going to go to a team that generally are going to have most of the ball, certainly in the Bundesliga. So he's going to flourish and do well. I don't see a problem with this whatsoever.
Let's take a look, shall we, at the possible starting 11, Ali. This is given us by Raphael Honigstein. Of course, some new faces there, some old ones gone. Of course, the right back now different. The fact that Philipp Lahm has now retired. Kimmich coming in at right back. Tolisso, who joined from Lyon over the summer. And then Rafa's got James playing on the right, just behind Robben, Lewandowski and Ribéry. That's an attacking lineup, which you imagine would steamroll the Bundesliga, no problem. But the big question, and what Bayern Munich fans want, isn't it, is another European Cup.
Now, my opinion on what the starting lineup with James Rodriguez would look like would be a little bit different. Arturo Vidal would be playing for me as a starter for Bayern Munich because I think he gives you a presence in the midfield. However, with James Rodriguez, what you have is another player that can break down teams that tend to sit on Bayern Munich. A lot of teams will put numbers behind the ball because they know that Bayern Munich values possession. Some of the criticism that Pep Guardiola got when he was at Bayern Munich was that this team became very horizontal and there was no vertical movement. Well, James Rodriguez gives you the horizontal, but can also give you the piercing pass going forward, the passes that can penetrate defending lines. And so James Rodriguez is a talented player, and it's all about where he is mentally. If Carlo Ancelotti handles him the same way that he handled him in Real Madrid, there'll be no issue because James Rodriguez likes to be loved, likes to be appreciated. And I think Ancelotti appreciates James Rodriguez. With him on the ball, he can create opportunities for himself and for others.
Good enough to win the Champions League?
I think so, yes.
You agree, Janusz?
Bayern Munich?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
still not good. No. I mean, again, you have players in wide positions that are often not healthy enough. I wonder how long Lewandowski can be scoring, 30, 40 goals a clip. I mean, it's been great for them, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. So I'm with you, by the way, on Vidal, because if you show this lineup to Vidal, he's putting himself on the transfer market immediately. There's no chance that happens. I mean, it could happen, but Vidal won't be part of that.
That team that you put up there
can
be bullied.
Right.
Yeah, well,
they could be beaten by lesser teams because lesser teams are going to have to be physical. And that team that you put up there is soft.
Go on, Gab.
No, I was going to say, this is a very hypothetical team. I mean, Rafa obviously knows Bayern inside out, but the reality is I'm pretty sure Ancelotti doesn't even know what what the team's going to look like, because the reality is you're not going to expect Arjen Robben and Frank Ribery to play every game. In fact, I think if they turn up for half the games, it's already a result. Remember, there's another big name we haven't mentioned that's not in this lineup, and that's Thomas Muller. So you look at guys like Muller, you look at Vidal. I think Ancelotti, there's one thing you can say about him is he's played a whole variety of lineups. I wouldn't rule out the possibility in certain situations of dispensing with wingers altogether and going back to his Christmas tree formation, perhaps with Muller and James behind Lewandowski, or in certain games Muller might play up front with Lewandowski and James in the hole. So there's a whole assortment of possibilities out there, and I think what Ancelotti likes is the fact that for the next 2 months, he's gonna be able to try different things, see what sticks. Remember too, Vidal's another one who's also misses a ton of games every year, especially coming back in the fall when he comes back from internationals. So from their perspective, I think they're going to use the season to go and win the Bundesliga, find the right mix, and then perhaps tailor with a lineup. Hopefully they'll have it by the time the knockout stages of the Champions League come around. And then that's when you're really going to worry about what their best 11 is.
Meanwhile, Gab, no Douglas Costa, obviously, in that 11. How close is he to that move to Juventus?
My understanding is that everything is agreed. It's just a question of the ink drying. Obviously, Juve have pursued Douglas Costa for some time. It's a loan situation. I think it's something like 6 million euros a year, and then if he plays a certain number of games, then Juve have to buy him outright for 40 million. But this is what they wanted. They really want to push this idea of playing with two genuine wingers to help service Higuain. The Mandzukic on the wing thing was fun last year, but they're not going to persevere. They like Piazza a lot, of course. He's already there. You've got Douglas Costa. If Alexandro hopefully sticks around, they feel that they're going to be very well served to go out and do that.
Meanwhile, Gab, Dani Alves burnt his bridges, didn't he? And then some. Juventus, everyone thought, right, he's going to City, reunited with Pep Guardiola. It makes complete sense. Yet it seems like he's on the brink of signing for PSG. How did all this happen?
Amazing. He actually took a medical at Paris Saint-Germain. I think this is one of those stories where I think the truth is going to come out later. Certainly right now, there's been briefings of reports of Pep Guardiola feeling disappointed and upset. There's other people who are suggesting that really this Dani Alves move was just a way of hurrying the Kyle Walker deal along. I honestly don't know what the situation is. What I do know is that he was all smiles today in Paris undergoing his medical. And I think he's not. He won't be joining City.
Meanwhile, Gab, finally, Donnarumma is now. Wait for it, gentlemen. Donnarumma. Yes, he signed a 4-year contract at Milan. It's done, Gab. After what was a messy old couple of months, it's all sorted.
It's all sorted, and I think once again you kind of need to tip your hat to Mino Raiola because in between hijacking the Lukaku deal and sending him to United rather than Chelsea, he found time to go and sort this out. Donnarumma is going to earn 6 million euros a year net. If you want to convert that to pounds on a weekly basis, it's in excess of 200 grand a week. He also managed to work out a deal for his older brother who played in Greece last year. He got a contract with Milan as well. He's going to earn substantially less, but it's about another 30 grand a week that he's going to make in pounds, assuming he ever plays. And on top of that, he also got the release clause that he wanted, 70 million euros release clause, which again, if Donnarumma turns out to be half the keeper people think he will turn out to be, then he's going to be well placed for a move if things don't work out on the pitch for Milan.
Not bad for an 18-year-old, is it? Gab, stay with us because after the break I want to talk to you about what's going on at Chelsea. Diego Costa, obviously not at pre-season. Where is his future? And is Bakayoko's deal really going to be hijacked by Manchester United? Welcome back, Gab. Let's talk Chelsea, shall we? Some supporters getting a little bit antsy, a little bit nervous about what's going on this summer. Obviously, such a brilliant season last year. That momentum seems to have hit a bit of a brick wall, though, in the transfer market.
Yeah, and of course, the one Chelsea supporter who seems to be getting antsier than most is the manager, Antonio Conte, having lost out on Lukaku. Now there's stories here in England that they may lose out on Timur Bakayoko as well from Monaco, who'd been a long-standing target that they were in advanced talks with. There's suggestions that Manchester United might be getting involved in that deal. I'm not sure about this. I think United certainly took a long, hard look at Bakayoko before. They seem to be going in different directions. Could they be coming back in for him now? I think Chelsea still feel relatively confident that they're in a very good place with Bakayoko, and they can get this wrapped up soon. But of course, then they still need to go out and get that centre forward.
Well, this is it, isn't it, boys? You take a look at it, and obviously others have been busier than Chelsea, but Chelsea did win the Premier League easily last year. So how many reinforcements do they really need? Obviously, your number one target is a striker, isn't it? But apart from that, is it a case you just need to calm down a little bit and just look at the squad that you've got?
No, you have to add. When you're as strong as they were, you know that the opposition are going to try and catch up with you. That means you have to stay one step ahead. And staying one step ahead means that when you're at your best, you add quality. They haven't done that, and they don't look as though they're going to.
But they need to. Obviously, Diego Costa is out into the abyss. We'll talk to Gab about that in the moment where he is. But you need a striker.
Yeah. Well, yes, of course you do. And one of the biggest threats to teams that have been successful is complacency. And so when you have players that have achieved their goals, it's very easy for them to sort of take a step back and say, we've done it, job done, game, set, match. But Chelsea doesn't have that luxury simply because you have a major hole in a major position, which is center forward, striker. Those guys don't come along very often, and you had one in your hands, and somehow you're letting him go elsewhere. If you're Chelsea, you must find an answer there. And it seems like the only answer, the only feasible answer right now is Alvaro Morata. They don't seem to be many other options elsewhere.
Are Chelsea still favourites?
No, they're not. And the funniest thing is, there isn't a better striker out there than they already have, which is Costa, of course. And I just wonder if there's a way of mending this relationship somehow. Somebody's got to be a bigger baby in this one, because not only did they need him, but I would say they needed Morata or somebody else.
It's Costa, and you know what he's like. You know that mentally, obviously, he upsets people. It's the way he is. So if you dump a girlfriend and then a month later look for other girls and can't get the one that you want, so you ask your ex-girlfriend to come back, she's not going to come back with a smile on her face, is she?
No, but two A-type personalities. Conte is no different, and that's why these things happen, right? I just wonder, somebody at Chelsea's got to sit down, and I know Conte is very important. He's not going anywhere, but the reality is that not only do they need Conte, even if they get Morata, who else they have? Loic Remy, Batshuayi? That's a big ask. Even if one of them comes good, and it would be Batshuayi probably before Loic Remy at his age, you're talking about defending the Premier League title, you're talking about going to Europe, you need quality, and even with Lukaku, I would have said that they needed somebody else. So I just wonder if with Costa there's a common language somewhere, because there is nobody near him. The way that Chelsea plays and the way he plays, that you can get out there.
By the way, you seem to have some experience with this girlfriend situation. You explained that very well, huh?
Yeah. Let's focus back on Diego Costa. Could we see a reconciliation, Gab? Could it all come good? Will there be a romantic ending to this story?
I don't think so. I think Conte was very, very clear. Last year he had Diego Costa and he had lemons and he made lemonade. But the reality is, and you saw that in the last 6 months at Chelsea, Diego Costa was not as effective as he was in the first half of the season. I think they look around and there's other strikers. There's not just Morata. I think Belotti is an option for them too. And I think that's where they're most likely going to look. They still have a pile of money that they budgeted for Lukaku, and I think they feel relatively confident that with that money they can go and sign one of those two guys. In terms of reinforcements elsewhere, let's not forget they did add Antonio Rudiger to the back line. Christensen may well be back from his loan spell at Borussia Mönchengladbach. They've got other players who are out on loan. Tammy Abraham scored a ton of goals. He's going to go to Newcastle this year. I think the deal is done, but he is available to come back. So it's not like they're up the creek without a paddle. There's still a good 6-7 weeks left in the transfer window.
Sounds like there's plenty more fish in the sea. ESPN FC, of course, with you 6 days a week to keep an eye on all these latest transfer rumours. Stay with us. Welcome back. Gab, let's talk about some more transfers, shall we? Doing the rounds at the moment, some that may be under the radar slightly. Iheanacho moving away from Manchester City.
Yeah, Leicester City are one of a number of clubs that were after him. West Ham also were in the running, but now it looks as if he is in fact bound for Leicester. Leicester feeling pretty confident about this, and that would actually free up Islam Slimani to move on, possibly to West Ham.
Would that work, in your opinion, Slimani at West Ham?
Yeah, I don't really get Slimani because the Slimani-Andy Carroll partnership doesn't really seem super logical to me, the whole Twin Towers thing. But you know what? Given Andy Carroll's injury record and Slimani's injury record, maybe you feel that they would need 2 target men.
What's going on with Riyad Mahrez at Leicester? Gab, you mentioned, of course, Iheanacho may be coming in. Mahrez linked to Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. That seems to have all gone quiet. Is that really his only suitor?
He's still being hawked around quietly by his people. Certainly from his perspective, he stuck around. He wanted to have that Champions League adventure under Claudio Ranieri, but he does want to move on. He feels like he's done his bit. He's been loyal to the club, and I don't think the club would stand in the way. What does stand in the way, though, right now, is a fee. Mahrez doesn't necessarily want to make what he would consider a lateral move. He would hope to move to a club that's in the top 6, 7 in the Premier League, or perhaps some equivalent abroad. And to do that, you're talking a hefty fee, and I think right now he's not seen as a priority.
Meanwhile, a team we've hardly discussed for a good reason during this transfer window is Atletico Madrid, obviously with that transfer ban, Gab, but they're still being linked to players.
They are. Obviously, they're linked to Diego Costa still quite strongly. And from Chelsea's perspective, they hope that they can get the deal done. Chelsea are asking for around £30 million, is my understanding. Obviously, that wouldn't happen until January. Another player that they were hoping to lock up with an eye towards the future is Vitolo, the Spanish international from Seville, of course. It looked as if this deal had entirely fallen apart as of Monday night, when it appeared as if he was going to extend his contract with Seville, and then today, newsflash, he turns up in Madrid, ostensibly to speak to Atleti. Again, it would be the kind of deal where most likely he wouldn't stay at Seville. He would be loaned somewhere for 6 months, and then join up in January.
If we were to look at Atleti, guys, on a graph at the moment, a few seasons ago when they won the La Liga, obviously that was their peak. Are they very much now on the downside?
I don't know if the downside, but they're not reaching those heights again. It just feels like there was a moment and a space in time for this group to be successful. They made the most of those opportunities. They were seconds away from winning Champions League, and then that was game, set, match. And even though there's been success and sustained success under Simeone, it just feels like this era of success for Atletico Madrid is ending sometime soon. There
was that famous stat last year, which we talked about a lot in the Champions League knockout stages. They beat everybody but Real Madrid. Do they still hold that same sort of threat to opponents, do you think, this season?
I think they do, because they're uncomfortable to play with. And the reason I say that, because Diego Simeone is still there. I think if he leaves, it's natural that a lot of players would probably want to leave, and it has that feeling it's over. The leader that's made this Atleti, because let's not forget, the Hill history, from way back when they were losing left, right, and center.
Sure.
So I think they'll sustain that, because there's still a lot of quality. The fact that Griezmann has stayed as well. Saul, we've seen that he's still growing and developing.
They'll sustain what level of success, though, Jan? Janusz?
That they're going to be somewhat competitive in La Liga, and I think in Champions League they're going to be continued difficult to beat because the way they play.
But not to the point of getting to Champions League final with an opportunity to win.
Maybe not. I mean, that's an incredible thing. I mean, who can say that? What they've done is unbelievable. I don't know how they've done it and why they've won it. So if you told me that they're going to be in the final before, even when those players were younger, I would have said no chance. So that's tough, but I think there's going to be a high level to this team. They're going to sustain that for another season.
They've lost their edge. This was a team that nobody wanted anything to do with.
Yeah.
Nobody. And that seems to have gone. You know, they've replaced 2 or 3 players, and that edge with those new signings seems to have disappeared. I don't think teams fear playing against them. Certainly from a physical side, they used to be the most physical side. That, again, for me, has disappeared.
If you put them up against any of the Premier League teams that are going to be in the Champions League next season, any of the Premier League teams' favourites?
I wouldn't say there's too much between them. But then you put them up against teams that have done nothing in Europe for the last, 4 or 5 years. So that's not exactly a great recommendation, is it?
I still take Atletico Madrid because there's an element of toughness that I still think it keeps Atletico Madrid competitive. However, I don't think that once you get into the Elite 8, the top 4 of the Champions League, at that point is when I think Atletico Madrid comes up short against the other teams.
We heard Gab talking about some of the latest transfer rumours. Of course, for all the latest, you can go over to ESPNFC.com, click on Transfer Talk. The boys are breaking it all down. Look, there's me and Darky talking about the possibility of Morata going to Chelsea.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Welcome back. The ICC kicks off on July 18th. Milan against Dortmund in China, and then some cracking matches, including United against City in Houston. That's on July 20th. Followed by, if we continue to look at the other ties, Chelsea against Bayern Munich in Singapore on July 25th. Barcelona against United, meanwhile, that is on July 26th. Bayern Munich against Inter in Singapore on the 27th. But it's all about Real Madrid against Barcelona in Miami. That is on July 29th. The man in charge of putting this together, Charlie Silitano, sat down with Adrian Healy to talk about the event.
Thanks very much, Dan. As you can see, the hard work continues in hostile conditions here at the Beverly Hills Hotel with the man who makes it all possible, Charlie Silitano. Charlie, welcome to the show. We just saw the list for this year's ICC tournament, the biggest names in world football here once again. Just briefly, how do you continuously make this happen?
Well, I think it really is a tribute more to the managers and the teams. They enjoy coming here. And, you know, we're also in China and Singapore. And that's a completely different challenge. Here in the States, and when they're slumming it here in Beverly Hills,
it's tough, isn't it?
It's a tough world, isn't it? But I think it comes down to trust at the end of the day. You do this for so many years. I have a great team of people behind the scenes that do all the work, and if it goes right, I'll get credit, which is nice. But the reality is it's the managers. They trust us. They trust what we do, and the players enjoy it here. They can get in shape and really hone their skills, if you will, in the first couple weeks without having let's call it the crazy circus that would be in Europe or Asia.
Well, you mentioned the zip code, 90210, Beverly Hills, where we're at the moment. Manchester United already here, Real Madrid about to land. That's two of the biggest names in world football in the same zip code. Organizationally, what sort of challenge is that for you? It
was really easy. I'm 25 years old. That's a challenge because it's also a challenge remembering who the managers are now and which team they're associated with. Because,
especially Mr. Mourinho.
And it's very true because you associate a manager when you see him. Yeah. With Sir Alex, it was easy. We all knew he was Manchester United. Yeah. But Jose, Carlo, Pep Guardiola, they're moving around from place to place on occasion. Conte, and you see the managers are like, well, that split second. And in this case here, they've all been here at UCLA, and they all have their field and their locker room and their hotel that they're used to. And so they're always asked for that first. So I would think it's, to be fair, it's a great deal of diplomacy that goes on behind the scenes and horse trading. But in the end, it really just comes down to sitting with the managers and saying, look, we're going to make it a great situation for you. And this year was the first time we're over at Drake Field at UCLA, and Jose Mourinho said it's the best situation he's had. And so the real secret is that the groundskeepers for Real Madrid that are here working with UCLA have said that their field is perfect. And the groundskeepers who are working for United said their fields are perfect. So as long as they feel that way, I'm fine.
Future looks really bright, doesn't it, for the sport in this country? In terms of what you're involved with, international club tournaments in the summer, how do you see the future unfolding, especially with FIFA wondering what to do with the Confederations Cup?
Well, yeah, it's a tricky question. I mean, we can only do, Mr. Ross and Matt Higgins had the vision that this would be a global tournament. And they challenged us to make it better and better every year and make it bigger and bigger every year. And I think, you know, our staff has done just an incredible job of putting that together. But the future, as far as, you know, official tournaments and things, that's really in the hands of FIFA and UEFA and even here, CONCACAF and CONMEBOL, the big confederations, if you will. They have to decide really what the future of these tournaments are. For our part, what Mr. Ross and Matt Higgins have put together is a great, great International Champions Cup. That's become the preeminent preseason tournament in the world. And I have to tell you, we get teams that are household names for us, but even household names for all the kids playing PlayStation and stuff nowadays. And they're calling us and saying we have to be in it. We're not talking little teams. I got a call from Javier Zanetti the other day saying that, you know, who's now an ambassador with Inter Milan, but he said, by the way, the Boca Junior president says you have to bring him to the ICC. And I just sort of laughed. I said, well, sure, have him call me.
Right.
But it's pleasant. It's a pleasant surprise to have all these teams wanting to be part of the ICC.
Charlie, tremendous to spend a few minutes with you. Thanks for the pleasure of your time. Good luck with this summer.
Always a pleasure.
Got to get back to the hard work. Got to get in the swimming pool behind me, Dan. It's a tough job. Someone's got to do it.
Welcome back. Obviously, on Extra Time, we answer some of your tweets. We thought we'd bring a couple to the show. The first one is a word that we've used a lot over recent weeks. My question is, do you get paid, Ali, each time you say Lukaku in that ridiculous manner that you do? Stop it. Stop it.
So that's addressed at me?
Yes, it's addressed at
Lukaku!
Now, the context of this is we were doing like a top 5 list, wasn't it? And I said, shouldn't Lukaku be in that list? And you went...
Lukaku!
And then that's how it snowballed, and that's where the story of Lukaku comes from, isn't
Correct.
it?
So if I get paid every time I say Lukaku, can I get a couple in?
Lukaku! And one for luck.
Lukaku!
Gab, why don't Chelsea go after Aubameyang? Why does it seem his stock has dropped so much? Quickly.
I don't know that it's his stock has dropped. I think it's just they slapped an enormous price tag on him. But I think he could come back into the reckoning. I don't know that he's a great fit for Chelsea and what Conte wants out of his centre forward. I think that would be the main caveat there.
Welcome into Extra Time. Thanks for your tweets. Looking at all the questions, they didn't use the one as to who could hold their breath for the longest. I don't think that would make very good viewing. Not that this is going to make great
The bar is very low, so...
Stevie, this is for you. Ooh. Do you honestly think Chelsea can replace Diego with the players linked to them? If you were Conte, what would you do?
What players are linked to them? The only one I've ever heard is Lukaku.
Morata now.
Well, I've heard nothing from Chelsea saying Morata. Everybody else seems to think it's Morata because there seems to be nobody else, but... As far as I was concerned, Morata was on his way to Manchester United, so Chelsea's in Stoke.
Oh dear.
Who are they going to get?
What would you do if you're Conte?
What would I do?
As a coach's perspective?
Beg him to
tell you what, you need to get your scouts and go through a list of strikers in the world, because right at this minute there doesn't seem to be one available.
Or
fit what he wants.
Or you can pick up the same cell phone that you do to send him a text message and say, hey, you know that text message? Hey.
Yeah. I would think Conte's number could have been scratched off his phone.
Gab Marcotti with us. What do you think, Gab?
Like, it's not like Morata is the only center forward in the world. If you talk about center forwards who are for sale or would be willing to push for a move, there's Morata, there's Aubameyang, and there's Belotti. There, I mentioned 3 right there.
Yeah, but none of them do what he wants. They don't. They can't. None of them can do what Costa did. None of them can do.
I would disagree. I think Belotti does a lot of what.
I beg your pardon, of Morata. Aubameyang's not going to do that. He's not going to do what Costa did.
No.
Belotti's not going to do that.
Aubameyang is a different sort of player, but.
No, exactly. But with
Aubameyang is a.
But that's the whole point, Gab. He needs to get.
No. Right, so forget Aubameyang, but the other two. Listen. The reason Diego Costa is going isn't simply because he had a poor 6 months and he fell out with Conte. It's because he doesn't actually do what Conte wants him to do. Conte has an idea of the kind of movements that he wants from his center forward and the kind of tactical discipline he wants from his center forward. And Diego Costa is not best suited to do that. Now, he's obviously a great player who did great for him last year, but it's not what he wants. In his mind, I think he would have rather had certainly Morata or Belotti. Now, Belotti's not as good as Diego Costa, not now anyway. Morata, who knows? But I think in Conte's mind, those are 2 center forwards that he would rather have than Diego Costa, and probably rather have Lukaku too, although of course that ship has sailed.
It has.
Tell you what, Conte must have lost his mind then. If Diego Costa's that bad.
It'd be interesting.
I hope Belotti signs, because I just like saying Belotti.
Yeah, with Morata, it'd be interesting to see him play a full season somewhere, especially in the Premier League and that grind, because he can score but hasn't really played.
It's a gamble though, isn't it?
A long time.
Rolling the dice. Belotti.
Is that how we're making the decision? Because we like to say a player's name. All right,
Belotti.
Solid. Lukaku.
I like saying Ezekiel Garay as well. That was always the nice one.
It's Ezekiel Garay, but that's okay.
No, but then I would say...
Okay, good.
What about Çalhanoğlu?
Çalhanoğlu, not as much.
Çalhanoğlu.
Always have a slight issue with him.
Next.
Oh, another one for you, Stevie. Why have Liverpool... This is from a Manchester United fan, so let's prerequisite with this.
Tell you what, can I just redirect this question to Jurgen Klopp?
Well, I'm not sure if he's watching.
I tell you what. Well, he needs to watch then.
Do we have him on satellite? I mean, is Jurgen ready to go?
It's bad enough. It's bad enough. This time last year, he basically was saying, right, James Milner's going to be playing left back for us next year. Now, in my empty head, I thought, you know what? Maybe he's a clever guy. He's got somebody lined up who's maybe got another year on the deal, or who's going to be out of contract, or they're going to be able to get him cheap. I actually thought he's got somebody in mind that will be ready in 12 months' time.
Yeah. What was the question? Anyway?
We're still sitting here waiting for a left back.
Transfer window's been a disaster. Stevie's kind of summed it up quite nicely. Right, final question. Who wins a wrestling match between Steve Nicol and Gab Marcotti?
Man, if you get pinned by Gab, good luck.
It's got to be Gab, isn't it?
If you go to ground with Gab, you're done.
No, you got to jab and move, and move.
Tell you what, So you've got to do the Scottish tactics, hit and run.
Yeah, but your running, Stevie, isn't quite what it used to be.
Well, freak out. Freak out.
Yeah. It depends on my medical condition at the time.
Gab, who have you got in that fight?
Yeah, I think I'd have to bet on myself. In addition to the obvious size advantage, I might also throw in the fact that I grew up watching professional wrestling. I attended Shane McMahon's wedding, and I have met Paul Heyman not once, not twice, but 3 separate times.
You're done, Steve.
I grew up watching sumo wrestling.
Do you remember when sumo wrestling
Let's see the post
on Channel 4?
Stevie.
No.
Yes!
Hold on a second.
Stevie,
honestly,
who's he on about?
Are we really going to let this one go? Gab in a wrestling uniform? Come on. What a sight that is.
Stevie in a sumo thing. Stevie in a sumo thing. There you go. Winner.
You don't want this view, by the way. You don't want this view.
We got a winner.
Tell you what, I'm growing more confident by the second.
Oh, my God. We're taking it to a new level.
Where's your salt? What do they throw in the air? The flour or whatever. Anyway, ESPN FC. They throw salt in the air.
Can we arrange that, though, by the way?
Oh, flour or something.
Does it do that for good luck?
Yes.
Right.
I can't believe we get paid for this.
6 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back tomorrow. Bye-bye.